What's up guys? Henry here, back with another video. We've been focusing a lot on the IS stuff and this thing has kind of just been in the background. So I want to address a couple of things. And I first want to start this video off by saying I regret nothing. However, I do understand why a lot, and I'd say almost a majority of RX-7s are bought, enjoyed for a short period of time, and then parked for 10 years. So let me tell you where this thing is at and why I think most people regret buying RX-7. So jumping right in, this thing just got disassembled. I went ahead and took everything apart. A couple of months ago, I blew my apex seals. This setup was about a 60,000 mile setup. It was a Pet 8 Racing Blueprint 13B build. Brand new 13B with their upgraded twin turbos, their street port, their seals, and pretty much everything associated with it. It was a simplified solenoid setup, meaning it was simplified from 9 solenoids down to 6. And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that is the correct terminology there. And what I mean by solenoids is these solenoids actually control the boost actuation of the twin turbos. And so from factory, there's a series of solenoids that are activated, allowing allowing vacuum and pressure to be inserted to a various amount of vacuum lines to operate and open the turbos. First turbo comes on, I think, between 2 and 4,500 RPM. Second one comes on after 4,500 RPM. So it's a very complicated setup and it offers a lot of opportunities to fail. So I think the biggest regret of RX-7's owners is buying that car, enjoying it, and then breaking it. Because the point that I'm at, it starts to add up really quick, especially when you had a sort of stock setup. When you blow up an apex seal, or rather when the apex seals go, they end up getting shot through the turbos. You can make it out all right, and we're gonna see how all right I made it out when we actually pull this motor. I'm pulling it next week, and we're gonna tear down the motor right here in the garage. And we're gonna see if we took housings with it, if we maybe are gonna get lucky and maybe the housings are okay. Maybe all I needed are apex seals, but I'm prepared for the worst. Anyway, and what I mean by that is there are 2 housings. When the apex seals go, and the apex seals in my rear housing went, it's possible that they scored up the entire housing, maybe cracked the housing, and then it won't be able to hold oil. So there are a lot of things and stipulations there. When they went, I turned it off right away and I went home. So hopefully maybe we're okay. I'm not banking on it. But the costs associated with going from a stock setup and rebuilding, it also at this day and age doesn't make sense to put another set of twin turbos on it or find OEM turbos. If you're gonna do it, the motor's out, just do it right. I deliberated back and forth between twin turbos and single turbo setup for a long time. I wanted to stay twins, but at this point it just doesn't make sense. There are so many vacuum lines and so many solenoids that can go wrong at any time that it just makes maintenance a nightmare. And for a usability standpoint, I don't want to deal with it. But down to brass tacks. When this happens, it's just not cheap. The motor rebuild, I mean, assuming that we just have to replace a rear housing, maybe about $2,000 to $3,000 in parts. And the labor here, I'm doing it myself, so I'm saving there. Turbo kit, we're actually partnered with Turblone to do their brand new 8474 kit with Turblone's new housings. But that kit will set you back almost $5,000. I'm also updating from the Apexi Power FC to a Haltech unit. Haltech or Fuel Tech, I haven't decided. I do want to keep the OEM OMP, which is the oil metering pump, just to keep things simple. And I can't use that with Fuel Tech, so I've been leaning towards Haltech in that case. But again, another $2,500. So in just motor build stuff and doing it myself, I'm going to be in, almost 10 grand. And that's not an easy thing to stomach after somebody has spent, X amount of dollars on a car. You could spend 30 grand, 40 grand on an RX-7, 50 grand on an RX-7, and it might blow up the next day. That's not necessarily the case at all. From the research I've done and the friends that I've made, it turns out that apex seals are about a 60,000 mile wear item. like rod bearings or vanos in a BMW, it needs to be done. And if it's not done, however, I do understand that somebody buys a car, maybe they buy an RX-7 for 20 grand, they're ecstatic, you know, driving the thing, it's doing its thing, and then it goes. And it's gonna cost you half of what you bought the car to bring it back. It hurts a little bit. And I can understand why some people would be turned off by that. It could take them by surprise. It hits you up real quick. And I'm not even talking about fuel system stuff. I'm talking fuel rails, and I'm not talking about injectors. It's really only like a 4-cylinder in that, right? Because you need leading and trailing injector for each rotor. So it's not the worst. It's not like buying injectors and stuff for the IS. The IS is a 6-cylinder. It needs a lot more stuff. And my plan with this car is to keep it pump gas and keep it mild. So like I said, 8474 kit, but that's really only to have the revs out of it. The 7670 kit seems to die off at around 7,000 RPM in terms of efficiency. So I'm going with the 8474 just to keep in spool up to the OEM factory red line of 8,600 RPM. And I honestly want to make 8 to 10 pounds of boost and make 350 to 400 horsepower maximum. I'm running the RX Parts by Roan in New York. RX Parts apex seals in this new setup. They will actually reform if detonated, if you let it run. Basically a material that with enough heat will reform to its factory settings. And I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, shout out to Peter in New York for hooking me up. That was awesome. So he's actually had that set up for 12 years running. Great, making 400 plus. But yeah, I can very much understand why someone might want to throw in the towel. I think that's where doing your research before buying the car really comes into play, because you need to know what you're getting into. And to call back my 1 year with my RX-7 video, this is a car that you just kind of need to know what you're doing, or at least need to know what you're getting into before you buy it. If I didn't know that this was all a thing, this is pretty saddening. But I knew what I was getting into before I did it, and in the grand scheme of things, it's a fraction of what you would cost for Porsche rebuilds of the same era, 993s or 964s, 912s, anything. And I think the enjoyment factor is far greater. So just to go over some of the next steps, I'm actually pulling this motor. Like I said, we're gonna set it out right here, and we're gonna do this whole journey together. I'm going to rebuild the motor this year. 2026 will be motor rebuild, computer setup. I'm going to be wiring it all myself. We're actually going to be painting the bay because next year, 2027, we're painting the whole car. I'm not going to tell you what colors we're doing. Been going back and forth for the longest time, but I think I picked a color that's going to be banging. Maybe it's similar to this. Who knows? Anyway, but we're painting the bay, and this car, this is going to be my really big build. We're going to enjoy a ton of IS videos in the meantime, and in that meantime, I'm going to do a ton of videos on this car, and I'm very excited about it. This is going to be really special. I've dreamt of having this car my whole life, and like I said, we're going with a really solid engine setup. I'm keeping it OEM plus and maintenance at heart because I want to be able to drive this thing cross country. We're putting the AC back in it. We're going to partner with GP3 Motorsports there. Like I said, turbo for the turbo kit and turbo setup. Then I think Best Damn Powder Coating is going to powder coat this whole damn thing. Then we're going to be doing, like I said, Hall Tech, I believe, is what we're going to end up in for computer-wise. Paint the whole bay. And I'm also going to do a rebuild of the transmission. We're going to do new clutch setup, new booster setup. This is all pretty much just going to be brand new. And I want to keep it maintainable, like I said, so I'm going to keep a lot of the factory elements there. And I hate to even like put this out there, but I want this thing to be almost, or at least carrying the ethos of what a Singer Porsche does. Reimagining what they could have been from factory. And that's going to be my idea. We're doing a full window out paint. Like this is going to be a very in-depth paint job next year. And on top of that, I'm going to be redoing the entire interior and recovering it and also making it feel a lot more substantial. This is going to be my Porsche build. I want to, you know, if I had to spend the money and do it right, I want this car for a long time, if not forever. Same with the IS. This is my duo. So this is going to be a really cool build. I really appreciate everybody for staying along and watching as, you know, up to this point. And it's only going to get cooler. So again, thank you guys. Also, if you haven't seen, it's my buddy Daniel's shirt. He's got a sweet RWB. He's the homie. You know, I'm sure you've seen him around. We'll actually be doing some video on his LSRWB in the next couple months. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. We're going to pull the motor next week, so I'll get a ton of video on that. And yeah, stay along for the ride. See you next week. Peace.